Hello and welcome to the Sensual Being podcast with myself, your host, Jolene Whiting. I have been a pole dance teacher for nearly 20 years. I'm also a yoga instructor, and my favourite pastimes are connecting to my own sensuality, connecting with the world, and connecting with animals as well. In this podcast, you'll find new and inventive ways of how you see yourself, connecting yourself with others, and also how you see and view the world around you. In today's episode, we are going to be diving in to manifesting, how to show up, how to embody these feelings, and how to manifest the life of your dreams. Hello, sensual being, and welcome back. And thank you so much for joining me today. This episode has been a recommendation from a listener, Amy. Thank you, Amy. And she says that it was episode 44, which was infusing daily rituals with joy and love. And she said it piqued her interest on manifesting, and she wanted to know more about manifesting and everything to do with that. So this episode, whilst that one, episode 44, dived into many different rituals and things you can do, this one is very much focused on manifesting. Now, there are more than one way to manifest. So we are just going to cover a various range of different things to particularly be aware of when we manifest. So with manifesting, it's very focused on how you are showing up in the world and the language that you use to put that out there. So a lot of the time when we think about what we want, it comes from a place of scarcity. So whilst we're thinking about what we want, we're also thinking about what we don't have. And sometimes this can go further, and that we just think, I don't want this, I don't want that. But sometimes we're not even tapping into what we want. I bet if I asked you to write a list of things you don't want in your life anymore, things that you don't want to do, I bet you could write that list very quickly. But if I asked you to write the list of exactly what you want, I bet that's actually, it can be harder to do. Don't ask me why. I'm just going to say it's due to our conditioning. I don't know why. But we need to try and get as clear as possible on what we want in life, how we show up in the world, because we can literally create our own reality. And you might be thinking, yeah, but some people go through so much bad stuff, and why are they creating that reality? There is a certain power that we have in taking control over how we show up, which is the point of what we're going to be looking at with this. So when we're looking at the language, so for example, if I say, money is always coming to me, money is coming to me, money is coming in to me, it's very, very vague. You're not saying when, you're not saying how much, and more importantly, you're not saying how. Now, the how is important because I might be thinking in my mind, I'm going to earn the money, yeah? But what the universe is hearing, money is going to you. So that can also come in a form of maybe a relative dies and leaves you money, and you're like, oh, that I guess that is what I put out. Can you see how the language is important, and being clear on your intention is important? So if you want X amount of money to come to you through your earnings, say that. Say it, write it, feel it. Because if you're not clear, so sometimes in life we can't be 100% clear, because that can also block you. If you're like exactly right down to the penny and what date it's coming in, sometimes it can be like it's so clear that you actually will get focused on that outcome, focused on that date. And that is still not quite the right mindset that we want, because you want to be able to let go of the attachment of the outcome. And you're probably thinking, Jolene, but if I wasn't focused on the attachment of the outcome, then why would I bother? What would happen? The main thing is that if you're focused on the outcome, you're still focused on the scarcity of what you don't have. You don't have it yet. You don't have it yet. This is why I am on the fence when it comes to goals and writing them down every day. Yeah. So there's an element of trying to make sure you're moving in the direction of where you want to go, but not being fixated on the outcome. So say, for example, if you wanted to release 2 stone of weight, you don't want to be focused on that 2 stone every day. You want to be focused on your next step to get to that point. Yeah, because it's all about taking one step at a time. When you go on a long journey, you don't know what every single road, every single set of traffic lights, every single roundabout is going to look like, because you don't need to know. You just need to know your next step. So knowing where you're going is great, but you don't need to know the how. All you need to know is your next step. So another thing with this is to embody the feeling of having it. I want this. I want that. You need to embody the having it. This is where meditation and visualization is brilliant, because you can close your eyes and you can tap in to how would your life be if X happened, if what it is that you want happened. How would you live? How would you feel? Because ultimately, it probably isn't about having the thing. It isn't about having the money. It's not actually about releasing the weight. I prefer that term rather than losing the weight, because anything you lose, you're always looking for. When you release it, you let it go. So that's why I'm saying release the weight. But you're not actually, that's not the thing, is it? Because you want to feel a certain way. You want to maybe feel healthier in your body. Maybe if there's more money coming in, you'll be less worried or less pressured in other ways. You want the feeling. That is what to tap into, is how do you want to feel? And that is your driving force. So when you do like meditation and visualization, you want to tap into how it feels. And there's a book that's out, I'm sure you probably heard about it listening to this podcast, called The Secret. The Secret's been out for many years now. And it really taps into manifesting and the power of the mind. And it is brilliant. It is brilliant. But we need to make sure we focused on the daily action. So, and I'm not saying this wouldn't happen, because probably someone's someone's had this happen to them somewhere, where they sit in and they manifest every day, my perfect partner, I'm going to meet my perfect partner. And maybe the delivery guys come to the door and they've got married. Maybe that's happened. But you've got to remember that where you're focusing and just sitting inside and yeah, this is going to happen, you also need to take the action. So maybe even if depends on the sort of person you are, maybe having an action plan, writing your goal every day is great, but it's like, what is your next step? It always comes down to what is your next step in the right direction. But when we talk about like embodying the feeling, there was something interesting I heard about Jim Carrey a few years ago. And actually, it was quite a long time ago, thinking about it. But what he used to do, there was a road. This was before he had really any money. He knew what he wanted to do and what he wanted to be. And he knew where he wanted to live. And these houses were way out of his price range. They were just not in his price range at all. So what he used to do is he used to drive down this road every day after work, look at these houses, be in the street with these houses, and imagine himself driving home from work, pulling up into one of these houses, and this is where he lived. Yeah. So he was really embodying the feelings, because he was even going to the place. If that's possible, great, go to the place. It's not always that simple, because depends what you're manifesting in. But he would actually go to the street and imagine himself living there. And that is where the embodiment of the feeling comes in. Another thing, which can be very visual, is a vision board. And people are on the fence about vision boards. I haven't done many, but I would tell you my 2 experiences of them. So one of the ones I did was about 6 years ago. And to be honest, they're really fun to do. So basically, you get a big piece of card. A lot of people do them online now. I don't do that online. I like touching things. So I get a load of magazines and I cut out loads and loads of little pictures and I stick them on the vision board of what I'm looking for. And you might find that the stuff that you get drawn to, you're like, oh, that's what, you're not necessarily going there looking for the exact picture of what you want. And sometimes you find something slightly different and you're like, oh no, I like that too. I want that. So you put that on there as well. So it's all a case of unfold in your mind as you're literally doing this. When people do this digitally, a lot of people create a private like Instagram account or a Pinterest board, and then they just put a load of things on there. Then that is their vision board. I'm very tactile. I like to actually physically do it, but whatever works for you, this is very important, has to work for you. So it can be very individual. So I did that vision board. And then some people look at their vision board every day. I didn't. I just put mine away. And I didn't really think about it again. And it wasn't until, I think it might have been about 3 or 4 months later. And I had a look at it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Pretty much everything on the vision board had come true. And not only that, one of the things on there was I wanted to start my own little seminars called Purify, which was a roll-off of Purity, because my school is Purity Studio. So I called it Purify. And what I hadn't realized is that first seminar that I held had 7 people. When I looked at my vision board, there was a little person standing and there was 7 people sitting. And I thought, oh my God, this is what I mean about getting clear. That was really specific. I hadn't thought, I want to do a seminar with 7 people. It was just I wanted to do a seminar. And I ended up with 7 people. And I was like, oh my God. And that's just an example of how a vision board can work. So basically you put that energy out into the world, and it's like setting a big intention. Now, whether you look at it every day or not, there's no right or wrong way to do that, but you are setting the intention out into the world. And I've heard so many different stories of things that have happened. I'll tell you one of my other ones as well. Now, I didn't know it was called a vision board when I did it, but I kind of had this little notebook when I was young, and I used to put all these different pictures in there. And I always said that I wanted a dog, and this was Mr. Bones. I wanted a dog that you would draw when you're 5 years old. So I didn't have a particular breed in mind. But I had put these cut out pictures when I was young of these dogs in this notebook. And it was only a couple of years after I got Mr. Bones, I found this little notebook. I thought, oh my God, I remember this book. And I looked in it and he was in there. Bearing in mind, we don't know what breed he ever was. His picture was in there. And I was like, oh my God, I manifested him, the color, everything. And again, just another example. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing at the time in that way, but that type of action of creating a vision board worked. And if anybody follows Neil McCoy Ward on YouTube, he does a lot of finance stuff, and very, very interesting man. But he did a vision board. He thought, oh, it's all woo-woo, it's all a load of this, not really going to work, but I'll do it anyway. So he did it. And he manifested through that vision board the place that he's living in. And in the pictures that he had put on the vision board, it even had a tortoise and a peacock. Since then, a peacock has randomly moved in to where he lives. Like, he now has a peacock there. He didn't get it by it, it just moved in. And then a tortoise showed up one day as well, but he had to sort that out because he wasn't allowed to actually keep that. But that had randomly come in. And you're like, hang on a minute. That wasn't even what he was manifesting the place. But on top of that, he hadn't realized what was actually in the pictures. It was a peacock and a tortoise. So this is where we are so powerful in what we put out. And this is something that we have been really dumbed down to think about ourselves. But it's just remembering that inner power that we do have. You need to put a certain element out of trust. You need to surrender to it when it goes out, not be highly focused on it, because when you're too highly focused on it, you're highly focused on the outcome. You can put these sort of intentions out there. Some people like to do like fire rituals and like burn pieces of paper with rituals on them, setting them out into the world. That way you can literally speak them out loud, speak them outside to the sky, to the earth, to water, to any of the elements. Even if the wind comes along and takes those words, it is all very powerful stuff. Even if you're sitting there thinking it's a load of rubbish, try it. Because I promise you've been told to think it's rubbish. But that realization that our words are spells. So when you think about when you're at school, what did you learn? Spelling. These words are not by accident. They are on purpose. But we were taught not to pick up on certain things, not to ask questions. This is where we need to come back to realizing our own inner self-worth, our own inner power. And one of the things I love when I hear this is we invite what we write. So writing is so powerful. If you get up in the morning and write what you're doing that day to go towards what you want to do, like what you want to manifest in, what goal it is that you're wanting. If you get up every day and write your next steps or see that ready every day and read it every day, that is so powerful, because not only are you manifesting, but you're also staying on track with that next step. Sometimes with things like this, it can be like, it's so big. Like, I want to manifest £1 million within 1 year. If you think about that every morning, what is that going to do to you? Yeah. It's not going to do you good, is it? No. But what's your next step? That's what it is about. And one other thing with this is your mindset of how you are. So not being in a scarcity mindset, but to actually be grateful for how your life is right now. Even if you're like, yeah, but I want this, I want that. No. What do you have right now that you can feel grateful for? Because I can tell you now, if your heart is beating, you are really lucky. And if you think, everyone's heart is beating, no, they're not. No, they're not. And yours might not be at the end of the day. You need to be grateful for that now. And people really do have a lack of appreciation for literally what is not only what right in front of them, but is what is inside them and what is working. So like your lungs, breathing. I mean, if you can take a breath without hassle, that is a gift. And the moment that you realize that that is a gift, your life will change. Even if you are somebody who has a lot of gratitude at the front of their mind, when I bring you back to these words, they are still so powerful. You don't get blasé about gratitude and appreciation. We can just forget it. But once you start bringing that to the front of your mind, that is when the magic will happen. because you will live with this sense of appreciation. So if you're around people that are just very ungrateful, you don't really want to be around them, and it will rub off onto you, and it's just not a very nice energy. But when you're around people who are actually grateful and appreciative, you want to be around them more. It's nice, it's good, and it's powerful. So there's so much to unpack there, so much. Let me know how you get on. Let me know what you decide to do, or what you manifest in, or what changes for you. Start off with something small. Start off with if you're driving somewhere and you're pulling up to somewhere, manifest a car parking space and let me know how you get on, because that's an interesting one too. But yeah, enjoy it, because life is so much better. When you realize your own inner power, life is so much fun. It really is. And when you realize that you can control your own reality, your life will change. So thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, as always, to lead through your life with your heart and to live with intention. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends and on social media. If you have the time to rate or review this podcast, I'd be ever so grateful. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jolene Sensual Being. The links to my YouTube and to sign up to my mailing list will be in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.